important authors that we're expected to at least be relatively familiar with. In music, we have the symphonies of Beethoven, Mozart, and more contemporary works that are part of the literature. And anyone competent in the field is expected to know these. Similarly, anyone who's competent in the field of spiritual realization is expected to be familiar with the Vedas. The Vedas are the original source works on this planet about spiritual life. Now, what's remarkable about that, and deserves further study and analysis, is the fact that for so many centuries in the West, the very existence of the Vedas has been a well-kept secret. And this policy of minimizing or even making the Vedas a secret thing goes back all the way to the Roman Empire. The Romans did not want anyone to know that the ancient Greeks, for example, had got most of their ideas from the Vedic culture. Similarly, in Muslim society, they were originally Shiva worshippers, and the Kaaba is a large Shiva lingam, which is a type of temple worship derived from the Vedic literatures. And the ancient past of every language in the West is inextricably linked with the Sanskrit language. And if you ask any philologist, people who study languages, they'll tell you this is so. Therefore, the Vedic culture and Vedic literature are actually the ancestors of all the cultures and languages that we have on Earth currently. So how come we haven't heard more about the Vedic literatures? How come the Vedic literatures aren't household words? Why don't we study them? We study the Bible, we study other ancient works of sacred lore. Why don't we study the Vedas? And the answer is, it has been a government policy since the time of the Romans to keep them secret, so that the average person does not even know of their existence. And that is why we don't study the Vedas in school today. If you ask anything about the history or religion of the Indian subcontinent, we're told it's Hinduism. But wait a minute, Hinduism is a recent invention. It was made by the British during their occupation of the Indian subcontinent. It's a compromise among a whole bunch of different incompatible spiritual paths designed to confuse, confound, and ultimately defeat anyone who tries to research the subject and make the Vedic culture look silly in the process. Well, Hinduism is not the original Vedic culture. Hinduism is something invented by politicians, so no wonder it doesn't work. Actual Vedic culture comes from the original 4 Vedas, and it's been handed down very carefully, at times kept in secret, to prevent the meddling of outside agencies and to keep its form exact and true to the original over many thousands of years. So we should understand that the Vedic literatures are very important because they're actually the foundation of all the major cultures in the world today. Yet, because of government policies from the Romans on down to the British, they have been kept away from the average person. And this is a shame because the Vedic literatures contain much valuable information about how to live our life successfully, happily, peacefully, in harmony with God and nature, and ultimately attain perfect spiritual realization and go back to the spiritual world where we can live eternally in our perfect body and just be happy. So by taking away this important source of information, what has happened is that people have lost track of the real values and standards of spiritual life. And this allows them to be deceived by phony replacements. Just like if you didn't know what a real car was, and then somebody could sell you, a red wagon and claim that it was a car. And, well, why do I have to push? You know? Similarly, if you don't know what real spiritual life is, then somebody can sell you a substitute that really has very little to do with the real thing. And this is what is going on. There are so many different sources of information about spiritual life, so-called, yet none of them really can muster up to the standard. And what is that standard? Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Sutra is so important because it is the ultimate conclusion of the Vedic literatures. Veda means knowledge. Anta means the conclusion. So Vedanta is the final summing up, the final conclusion. This is what it all means, folks. This is, the final plot twist that shows what it was really all about. The problem is, Vedanta Sutra is very difficult to understand. So there are many, many commentaries on Vedanta Sutra, and that's a subject that we'll discuss in detail later on. But what you should know is that the original commentary by the original author of Vedanta Sutra is the Esoteric Teaching. The Esoteric Teaching is a book, a rather long book, written in Sanskrit, 18,000 verses, and it gives the real meaning of Vedanta Sutra by the real author of Vedanta Sutra, who is also Vyasa, means the divider of the Vedas, divider, Vyasa. He divided the Vedas into 4. He divided the Upanishads into 108. He divided the Puranas into 18. And then he divided all of this literature according to the 3 modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And he assigned the books that contain the appropriate material to those classes of human beings. Then these lineages and religions have been coming down by disciplic succession since that time, about 5,000 years ago. However, Western history does not acknowledge these original sources of world culture, and instead chooses to present some fabrication for political reasons. So we don't care very much for politics. We care more about the actual truth, because that is what will help people. And our goal is to help people as we have been helped. Our spiritual master came to the West in 1965 and translated these important literatures into English in an authorized way for the first time, without any political bias, nothing left out, nothing changed, all complete and wide open, laid out for our inspection. So those people who are intelligent and who want to attain the absolute truth and know what is really going on in life should take shelter of the Vedic literatures, and especially the Esoteric Teaching, which explains the entire broad landscape of spiritual life in a very concise and practical way. So we should not be fooled by modern imitations, and we should not be deterred by the bizarre cult of secrecy that has been created around the Vedas. Instead, we should go to the original materials and take shelter of their understanding, and that way it'll become easy to attain our perfect body. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of My Perfect Body. This is David Hughes, your host, reminding you to visit us on the web at esotericteaching.org.